I woke with a start, the air in my small cabin colder than usual, yet something warm pressed against me. At first, I thought it was a dream, some phantom memory of a life I once had on Earth. But when I looked down, my breath caught. Two small figures lay curled against my chest, their silver skin faintly glowing in the dim light. They were children, though no human child ever looked like this. Their eyes, half open in sleep, shimmered with soft blue radiance, and their fragile hands clutched at my shirt as though I was a last solid thing in their world. My first instinct should have been fear. Aliens meant danger, meant unknowns that could kill. But instead, what I felt was something primal, something heavy and undeniable. They were small, helpless, and they had chosen me. I didn't remember opening the door. I didn't remember hearing anyone approach. My cabin had been silent when I fell asleep, the jungle outside humming with its usual chorus of predators and distant storms. Yet here they were, breathing softly against me as if they had been there all along. I brushed a hand over their strange hair, softer than silk, shimmering faintly like starlight, and whispered, "Where did you come from?" My voice shook in the quiet. The recycler hummed, the only constant sound in my exile. I was supposed to be alone, marooned on this forsaken planet with nothing but broken tools and fading supplies. No rescue, no hope. Yet these two beings lay upon me as if fate itself had decided my solitude was over. Outside, something massive stirred in the trees. Branches cracked. A low rumble echoed through the night. My heart raced. Whoever, or whatever, had left them here wasn't far away. And I knew, with a certainty that made my skin crawl, that my life had just changed forever. I carried the girls inside and laid them gently on my bunk, though they never fully released me. Even in sleep, their tiny hands clung to my shirt, their glowing eyes fluttering as if they feared I might vanish if they let go. I sat beside them, staring, trying to steady my thoughts. They were fragile, yet there was something ancient in their presence, as though the weight of an empire hid beneath their small frames. I tried to convince myself this was just exhaustion, a hallucination from too many nights alone. But the warmth of their touch told me otherwise. The jungle outside was restless. I stepped onto the porch with my old rifle slung across my shoulder, the air heavy with the smell of ozone. The canopy swayed though there was no wind. That's when I saw the markings. Carved into the trunks of nearby trees were jagged sigils that seemed to burn faintly from within, glowing like embers in the dark. They weren't random. They were warnings, boundaries, the kind soldiers carve before they bring war. I realized then I wasn't just sheltering strays, I was standing inside someone else's territory. When I returned, the girls had shifted in their sleep, faces tense, bodies trembling as though trapped in nightmares. That night I dreamed too. Flames consumed the jungle, and through the fire a figure appeared, taller than any human, wings spread wide like obsidian blades. Her eyes were molten gold, her presence crushing yet regal. Her voice rumbled through me, echoing like thunder inside my skull. Asterisk, my daughters, do not fail them, human. Asterisk. I woke gasping, drenched in sweat, my hands shaking. The girls were awake as well, their eyes wide with fear and understanding. They had seen her too. It wasn't just a dream. It was a message. By the third day I had learned small things about them, enough to start feeling less like a stranger in my own cabin. The older one, who called herself Lyra, watched everything I did with cautious eyes, mimicking my gestures, tilting her head whenever I spoke. The younger, Sovai, was softer, always reaching for my hand, always pressing her tiny forehead to my chest as if listening to the rhythm of my heart. Their language was strange, clicks and soft chimes that shouldn't have made sense to me, yet somehow meaning filtered into my mind like water through sand. I didn't understand words, but I understood feelings, intent. They were frightened, but not of me. That evening the forest grew unnaturally quiet. No insects, no predators, not even the wind. I knew that kind of silence. It was the silence of hunters. My hand found the rifle before my mind had fully caught up. I peered into the tree line and saw them, shadows moving with unnatural grace, their outlines blurring with the branches. When they stepped into the dim light, my blood ran cold. They were towering figures, each armored from head to toe, their suits a fusion of bone and metal that seemed to breathe with them. Their helmets bore the same burning sigils carved into the trees, glowing faintly as though alive. Weapons pulsed in their hands, living extensions of their bodies. These weren't wanderers or scouts. They were soldiers. And they weren't searching for me. Lyra whimpered, clutching Sovi close as they pressed themselves against the wall, their luminous eyes wide with terror. Their voices rang in overlapping chimes, repeating a single name again and again, *mother. The dream hadn't been imagination. The figure of fire and wings was real. She was their queen. And these monsters had come to take her daughters. That night the sky itself betrayed me. A low roar built until the cabin walls shook, and when I rushed outside, the heavens were torn open by fire. Dropships screamed through the clouds, their hulls glowing red from rain-tree, scattering burning debris across the canopy. The jungle that had once been my reluctant refuge now glowed with lines of flame. The hunters were no longer ghosts in the shadows. They had come in force, their invasion written in fire across the stars. I held the rifle so tightly my hands ached. My first thought was to run, to abandon this place before I was crushed beneath armies I couldn't even name. But when I turned back and saw the girls huddled together on my bunk, eyes wide, trembling and calling my name in their broken attempts at human words, my chest tightened. They weren't asking for food or safety. They were begging me not to leave them. Every survival instinct screamed that I couldn't fight this. But something older, something stubborn and deeply human, rose louder than fear. I couldn't let them be taken. Not while they trusted me. Not while they believed I could protect them. I spent hours rigging what little I had left into defenses. Old fuel cells wired into traps, shards of scrap metal sharpened into spikes, explosives hidden beneath dirt. The cabin became a fortress, fragile but mine. I counted every bullet, every knife, every trick I had learned surviving out here. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. The ground shook as the first dropship landed, its engines rattling my bones. I could see the hunters disembark in disciplined lines, their armor glowing with eerie light. My world, once so small, was now the center of a war I didn't understand. And I stood alone at its threshold. The first clash came like thunder. The traps I had laid slowed them down. One fuel cell burst into flame, sending shards of metal tearing through the undergrowth. Another pitfall collapsed beneath a pair of armor giants. But for every one that fell, two more pushed forward. My cabin shook under the weight of their assault, walls splintering as energy blades carved through wood like butter. I fired until my shoulder throbbed, each shot ringing in my skull, but their armor drank the bullets like rain on stone. Still, I fought, every second bought with sweat and blood. One broke through, towering over me with a blade that hummed like a living thing. I barely had time to raise my knife before the weapon came down. I knew in that instant I was finished. No trap, no desperate swing could save me now. But then the air split with a sound I will never forget. A scream, high, raw, and impossibly powerful. Lyra and Sovi stood in the doorway, their eyes blazing gold. They raised their tiny hands, and light erupted from them like a storm breaking free of its cage. The hunter was hurled across the room, armor shattering as the walls themselves buckled under the force. I staggered back, shielding my eyes from the brilliance. The glow faded as quickly as it came, leaving the girls trembling, their bodies drained, their breaths shallow. Yet in their faces I saw no fear, only defiance. They weren't helpless children. They were something far greater, something the hunters feared enough to wage war over. And in that moment, I understood. Whoever held these children didn't just hold their lives, they held unimaginable power. Empires would burn to claim them. And somehow, I had been chosen to stand in their way. The jungle had become a wasteland. Smoke rolled through the trees, carrying the stench of charred wood and scorched flesh. For 3 endless days I moved through it, the girls clinging to me as I stumbled from one ruined patch of ground to the next. Hunters prowled constantly, their ships circling above, their voices carried in guttural tones through the night. I was running on instinct alone, body battered and spirit frayed, yet I would not let go of the small hands that clung to mine. Every time I thought I couldn't take another step, Lyra would whisper my name, or Sovi would press her head against my chest, and somehow I found the strength to keep going. On the 4th night, the world itself seemed to split apart. A deafening roar rose from the heavens, drowning out even the hunters' machines. I looked up and saw it, a ship so vast it blotted out the stars, descending through the smoke like a mountain of iron and fire. The air shook, the ground trembled, and for a moment even the hunters paused in their pursuit. The vessel's hull glowed with lines of molten gold, each marking radiating authority. When it opened, a figure emerged, just as I had seen in dreams. Wings of obsidian spread wide, casting shadows over the battlefield, her eyes burning with molten fury. The alien queen had come. Her voice rolled across the jungle, shaking trees and hearts alike. Asterisk, my daughters. Asterisk. The girls broke free from my grasp, running forward with cries of joy. Yet before they reached her, they turned back. Their glowing eyes brimmed with tears as they spoke a single word in broken, halting human speech. Papa. The queen's gaze found mine. Not with wrath, not with scorn, but with something far heavier, acknowledgement. The hunters scattered like dry leaves before a storm. Where they had once moved with cold precision, now they stumbled in panic, retreating beneath the weight of her presence. The queen did not need to raise a weapon. Her very being was power, her shadow enough to make seasoned killers flee. I stood frozen, torn between awe and dread, the rifle hanging limp in my hands. She was everything the dream had promised, regal, terrifying, eternal. Yet she did not look at them. She looked at me. Her steps shook the earth as she approached, her obsidian wings folding close. The girls pressed against her, their small hands gripping her robes, but they never left my side completely. Their eyes darted between us, pleading, as if afraid she might tear me away from them. Her voice rolled over me, softer now, but no less commanding. Tell me, human, why did you guard what was not yours to keep? The answer rose unbidden, my throat raw from smoke and exhaustion. Because no one else would. The silence that followed was unbearable. The queen's gaze pierced through me, searching for weakness, for lies. Then, to my astonishment, she lowered herself, wings folding like a mantle around her daughters, and around me. The crown upon her head dipped until her eyes met mine, molten fire softening. Then you are theirs as much as I am, she said. The girls clung to me, their mother's embrace enveloping all three of us. In that moment, I realized the truth. I was no longer a castaway. I was bound to something far greater than survival, far greater than my small forgotten cabin. I was protector of heirs, father to alien princesses. And as the stars shifted above, I knew this was only the beginning.